The last lesson we looked at was writing equations of lines. We are going to continue that discussion, but we're going to be writing equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. Now I know you all know what parallel lines are. You say they never cross. But why don't they cross? Well, because they tilt the same way. Think about railroad tracks. Parallel slopes are equal. Or another way of saying that, parallel slopes are the same. They have the same slope, and that's why they never cross. Now, perpendicular lines, they do cross, and they intersect in a very particular way. They form a right angle. So their slopes are not equal. Their slopes are, pretty fancy, they are negative reciprocals of one another. Negative reciprocals. So let's kind of get rid of that fancy language and let's say, how about flip and change the sign? All right, that reciprocal means we flip it over. Negative means we change the sign. So if this slope, let's say, was a positive 2/3, then this slope would be negative 3/2. Now I'm just making up those numbers, but one is positive, one is negative, and they are reciprocals of one another. So this lesson we're going to be writing equations of lines, and we're going to have our answers in that slope-intercept form. Remember, that's that y equals mx plus b. That's what we want our answers. But our directions for here is we want these equations of lines that are parallel to the given line and passing through a point. So let's look at our steps. We need to find the slope of the given line. Remember, in our last lesson, you always need to know the slope. So let's look at that. If I want a line that passes through the point negative 3, 1 and parallel to this line, then I need to know what the slope is of that line. Well, it's kind of nice. That's in that form of y equals mx plus b, so that coefficient of x is my slope. And since it's parallel, I want to use that same slope. The second step is use the slope and the given point to write the equation of the line using that formula. So remember, this is x1, y1, so we have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, filling in the numbers, minus a minus 3, that makes plus. We don't have any fractions, so we can just distribute because we want to isolate our y or get y by itself, and we're going to add 1 to both sides. So that line is parallel to this line. Those are parallel because they have the same slope. Their slopes are equal. Let's go through another example. So the first thing we have to do is find the slope. What is the slope of the given line? Again, it's in that form of y equals mx plus b, so we can just pick out the slope as that coefficient of x, and then I'm going to use that point. So again, writing down my formula to help me learn it. So I have y minus 5 equals the slope times x minus 2. This time I want to get rid of the fractions, so I'm going to multiply, remember, by that denominator. I'm going to distribute. What happens? Those divide out, and I want to distribute the negative 2. The negative 2. Then I'm going to add 25 to both sides, and I'm going to divide by 5. And again, those two lines are parallel because they have the same slope. And if you were to check, you could put the point 25 in for x and y, and you should get a true statement if you didn't make any mistakes. These next two examples, going back to those horizontal and vertical lines, right? So we want number 3, we want a line that goes through this point and parallel to y equals to 2. Well, what kind of line is y equals to 2? It is a horizontal line. Remember, it goes this way. So if I want something parallel, then I would need another horizontal line. There's no formulas, you just have to know this. So if I want another horizontal line, I know I need y equals, but what point does it need to go through? This point. And what does y equal to? -9. Yep, that's it. Easy but hard. Okay, so over here we want it through this point parallel to x is equal to 8. I only have an x. I have to know that that is a vertical line. So if I want something parallel to a vertical line, I need another vertical line, and that equation is x equals, and it has to go through this point, x equals 7. So parallel, find the slope, use that same slope and the given point, go to work. Now what about perpendicular lines? Okay, we want to find an equation of line passing through the given point perpendicular to the given line. Remember, perpendicular slopes are not the same. They are opposite reciprocals. So we still need to find the slope of the given line, but we don't use that one. We find the opposite reciprocal of that slope. And I'm going to label it with M with a little upside down T that stands for perpendicular. Then I'm going to use that new slope and keep going. All right, so I want it perpendicular to this line. What is this slope? That slope is -1/4. Now, if it says parallel, I'd use that one, but it doesn't say parallel. It says perpendicular. So I want to take the reciprocal, so that's 4/1, and change the sign so it would be positive. So I want to use this slope and the given point. So y minus 5 equals 4 times x minus 2. Again, no fractions, so I'm just going to distribute. And now I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And so these two lines are perpendicular. Look at their slope. That's -1/4. That's +4. Their slopes are opposite reciprocals. And again, you have to make sure it goes through that point. Let's just do one more of these. All right, so again, the slope of the given line is 3/5, but that says perpendicular, so I need to flip it and change the sign. Flip it and change the sign. So I need to use that slope and the given point. So y minus 2 equals my slope times x minus a -7. Those double negatives make plus. I have a fraction, so I'm going to multiply both sides by my denominator to get rid of that fraction. Be careful again, those reduce, so I have a -5 that I need to distribute. I'm going to add 6, and I'm going to divide by 3. And again, those two lines are perpendicular. Their slopes are opposite reciprocals. And then we're going to end again with the easy but hard ones. All right, so I want it to go through this point perpendicular to y equals to 8. So I have to know that this is a horizontal line. Well, what is perpendicular to a horizontal line? A vertical line. So I want a vertical line. And the equation of a vertical line is always x equals, has to go through this point, so x equals -4. Number 8, through this point, perpendicular to x equals -3. I have to know that this is a vertical line, and I want something perpendicular to it, so that means I need a horizontal line. And a horizontal line is y equals, goes through that point. What does y equal? -2. If that was a little fast, pause, rewind, listen to it again, but hopefully by now, after all of these lessons about lines, you've finally gotten about vertical and horizontal lines.